Ladies and gentlemen, to the Purple Star Town Hall here for 3:30. I know it's just a minute early, but I just want to kind of remind everyone to kindly and courteously put yourselves on mute. That way we don't have any interrupting sounds or noises. Get yourself comfortable. We don't want to have any squeaky chairs or people eating their little after-school snacks here, distracting us from the good conversation with these good folks. We're going to get started here in just about a minute, so get yourself comfortable. I try and run a tight ship, and so I'm hoping to keep everything to an hour. If we happen to spill over, hey, let that be our inspiration and let the good ideas keep flowing. But we're going to get started here in just about a minute. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. It is 3:30, so welcome to the first Purple Star Town Hall. And our focus this evening is going to be on high school, career, and technical centers, as well as college. We're looking at keeping this meeting to 1 hour, so go ahead and get yourselves comfortable. And I would like to go ahead and extend a nice warm welcome to our panelists who are volunteering their time for today. So today we have myself, I'm Corey O'Brien. I'm an Army National Guard combat veteran. I served for 9 years. I'm also a high school science teacher here at Hamilton Township High School. This is year 15 for me. I'm also our Purple Star point of contact. I'm also involved with the Ohio MIC3 State Council, the Ohio Purple Star Advisory Board, and I'm a veteran advocate for different organizations like the Resurrecting Lives Foundation, as well as the David Lynch Foundation. Joining us today and on this panel with me, we have Callie Haas, who is a school counselor at the Penta Career Center in the Toledo area. She's been there for 6 years. She's the Purple Star person of contact, and she has been supporting military-connected youth. It hits really home with Callie because her husband is a member of the Ohio National Guard, and he has been for 20 years. And they are a nice family and have 2 daughters. I'd also like to introduce Lori Mongolier. And Lori has been with Hilliard City Schools since August of 1998. And she's been a part of the Hilliard-Davidson High School team the entire time for 22 years. Lori is part of the HDHS Counseling and Guidance Office. And she has had 3 uncles attend Hilliard City Schools who were U.S. Army veterans. Also joining us from Hilliard-Davidson High School is Tom Woodford. And Tom has been a part of Hilliard City Schools for 19 years and has been an educator for 30. He is currently serving as the district college counselor. He's also an Army veteran. He served in the Ohio Army National Guard for 6 years. Also joining us is Mr. Jared Schenk. He's an Army veteran. He works with the Ohio Department of Higher Education, and he is the Senior Director of Military and Apprenticeship Initiatives and Special Projects. He is also part of our Ohio MIC3 State Council. Coming all the way in from Florida, we have Mr. Bob Bune, and he is the Florida MIC3 Commissioner. He also works with the University of North Florida Military and Veterans Resource Center. He's their center director. He's also part of the Naval War College, and he is a U.S. Navy captain retired. Lastly, as part of our panel, our eyes and ears of the show, our gatekeeper to this meeting is Mr. Pete LaPiba, and he is our MIC3 commissioner for the state of Ohio. He's also a U.S. Navy veteran, and he's also our Purple Star champion and one of the brainchildren behind this whole event and function. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for giving up part of your afternoon on this lovely Monday. And let me please remind you to put your sound on mute. And if you have any questions that happen to pop up during our meeting here, go ahead and type those into the chat function, and you'll see that on your toolbar. It looks like a little speech bubble. So we'll answer those questions at the end of our meeting. So again, welcome, everyone. I have 3:33 p.m. as our time. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of launch right into a little bit of our Purple Star founding history here in Ohio. And it was originally launched at the National Museum of the United States Air Force back in 2016. We also know that right there is Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in the Dayton, Ohio area. The Purple Star is now being replicated in 12 states, and we're hoping to continuously grow that number. And currently in the state of Ohio, the Great Buckeye State, we currently have 324 Purple Star schools in our lovely state. Again, we're hoping to expand that number. So we're hoping that many of you hear this good information and you spread it to your colleagues, you spread it to your coworkers, and you spread it within your district and to other districts. For this town hall, being your moderator, I kind of want to start at the high school level, but I want to do a quick introduction. And so the way I want to ease into these questions is I want to start off with a little backstory, and then I want to kind of tag a question right to it. And so the Purple Star Award has become a vehicle to support the MIC3. The goal of the compact is to replace the widely varying policies affecting transitioning military students. The compact leverages consistency. It uses a comprehensive approach that provides a consistent policy in every school district and in every state. The compact addresses key educational transition issues encountered by these military families, including these three big ones: enrollment, placement, and eligibility, not only for graduation, but also for other programs. We also have attendance that shows up frequently as an issue with our military connected families, either because of deployments or because of taking the oath of enlistment.
He said if they were on a roster last year, you could play. So I said, it's like, from the rest of it, I was like,
would you guys mind putting your microphone on mute, please?
Anyway, some girl, she went to a station last year.
There we go. And so would you think that schools would be understanding of the challenging endeavors that military connected families experience? You would kind of think that that would be very intuitive for schools to be receptive and understanding of what was happening. So my question, I'm going to direct this towards Bob and Pete here right off the bat. Do MIC3 commissioners see cases at the high school level? And what are some of the rights and protections the MIC3 recently had to enforce for students at the high school level?
Well, I'm happy, Pete. Let me jump in. And I can only speak to here in the state of Florida, but we do see that it is not always, or often it is not in the areas of a concentration like we have here in Jacksonville, where we have 2 Navy bases and a Guard base and lots of military. But even here, all it takes is one guidance counselor or one teacher to not understand what the compact's all about, and which is one reason why we try to start educating teachers while they're still at the universities and the education schools. Just give us, half a day on that. So, but it does happen, and it's often around graduation requirement. If you're talking high school, the most I see is graduation for some reason not fulfilling the requirements to either graduate in Florida or to leave Florida and not be able to graduate in the receiving state, as we call it. So it happens. And what we see is, if you get away from places like Tampa, where there's big Air Force presence, the Panhandle, where there's Navy and Air Force, Northeast Florida, they don't know it as well. And you might have a one-off where somebody's, still a military child, but the school system is not as familiar with it. We have school liaison officers right here that are just invaluable, and they intervene most of the time before it ever gets to my level. But occasionally there are ones that are in rural areas or other places. I don't know, Pete, over to you.
I would say that obviously when it comes to be a MIC3 case, active duty family, because we only have 180 school days on the books for each academic year here in the Buckeye State of Ohio, that the most common is the high school student when we're talking families and working with local educators, because we're talking about that pathway to graduation, as Bob noted.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And just real quickly, Bob, just tagging on to that question, are there state test requirements for Florida as well?
There are, and that's one of the, I'll tell you, the one I see often is our Algebra 1. And we have students who take that, someone 7th grade, 8th grade, and they move here, and then, you know, they don't have that on the record, and we struggle with, you know, they don't remember Algebra 1 when they're a senior. So we work through those. But yes, we have those requirements, but we've been really successful in sorting through that and not putting a student through something that they've already proven they can do.
All right, so it sounds like the Purple Star Award is a definite necessary vehicle in addition to having those SLOs, those student liaison officers. There's definitely a high need and a demand for, you know, folks pushing out the good word of what the MIC3 does. And the Purple Star is an excellent way of not only meeting the social emotional needs, but also making sure that students of military connected families and school districts, those receiving schools, know those rights and those requirements.
Right, yeah, I could do nothing but help. I mean, the school liaisons are wonderful, but there are only a handful of them, and there are many more. There's not one in every school by any means, and they're just in the areas of concentration. So it would benefit us all to have the Purple Star. We're working on it in Florida right now.
Outstanding, outstanding. Probably one of the most challenging things when we're dealing with military connected youth is trying to identify who they are. And so how are you panelists, how are you doing this in your buildings?
So I can go first. I'm from Penna Career Center, and we have roughly 1,400 to 1,500 students who attend, and we're application based. So we just became a Purple Star school, and we're able to put that as part of our applications and then pull that data. So not everyone has that ability to do that, but that's how we were able to get our students and then follow up with them from there.
Outstanding.
Yeah, Rick Reddick from Perrysburg High School. We do the same thing, and we actually have it as a little American flag on all of our information for our student learning system, our EMIS system, and we have that as part of our registration process as well. Also allows us to do things for our military students during April, and we do a shout out to all of our military children during Child Appreciation Month, helping them be recognized for their service to the country. Even though their parents are serving, they are many times the ones sacrificing. So we give them a shout out, a personal shout out, and we did that this last year. It was really fantastic identifying those students. They very much appreciated it.
That's great. That's great. Lori, how do you guys do it over there at Hilliard-Davidson?
Well, last year was the first year that we had done our survey, and we did that to our entire student body, actually. So it went out to 18 to 1,900 students, and that also included our students that go to our career center. And so we had a lot of different questions on our survey, and we got a pretty good response back, actually. And then what we're going to do this year is we're going to actually, we haven't done it yet, I'm hoping to do that by the end of November, is to send out a survey along the same lines, a little bit different questions, but we're going to send that out to our parents instead of the students and see what kind of questions we get. And then I also pull stuff off for our building off of eSchool Plus to see what students we have that are military connected.
When you say send out a survey, are you referring to like a Google survey, or what's the vehicle for you to actually, especially during this COVID time period, things might be a little challenging. So how are you getting that survey out?
The one we did last year was Google Docs. And so we sent that all out to the students. And then this year we're going to send it out. We have something called eBlast, and that goes out every Monday to all of our parents. And it's got just a lot of valuable information that they need to know for the week. But there's going to be a letter and then a link within that letter with the survey.
So Hilliard City Schools is we actually have 3 high schools now. And so we're going to expand this to Hilliard Darby as well as Hilliard Bradley. So I send an email to all of our families 9 through 12 every Wednesday or Thursday. It's called College News. And in that, I've already sent out various information about scholarships and things like that. But we're also going to include this same survey to all of the families in grades 9 through 12 at all 3 of our high schools.
And by sending it out multiple times, you make sure that any new enrollees and no one slips through the cracks and that information's out there. That's outstanding. Good stuff. Other things that I wanted to kind of ask our panelists here. How are you developing relationships with our military connected youth and their families within your building or within the classroom, even during these interesting COVID-19 times? We can do pre-COVID and we can do current COVID.
So Corey, a few years back, prior to being in the role that I'm in now, we had a lot of military families. And we had a lot of families who had parents who were overseas. And so I actually held I guess I would call it a support group. And we would meet once every 3 weeks, and students would actually come in and they would talk about if they had an opportunity to speak to their parents or their aunts or uncles. But then it kind of blossomed into something quite larger. So our school district is extremely diverse. And so we actually started getting students to take part in it who were from various countries that our families were actually in. And so that created a lot of conversation. The question why was asked a lot for all folks. And it just, it was pretty, very, very powerful.
So I can touch on what we're trying to do, and just for time frame, we had Pete come out on January 16th to become a Purple Star school, and then one of the other teachers that is leading this with me, he was deployed February 13th, and then we shut down in March. So we were kind of doing like a game plan of everything that we planned on doing, and we really want to utilize our Career Center services for helping these families. So we talked about using culinary for meals, allowing deployed family members have their car serviced, or sending flowers through our floral department. But once we did the survey and we found out some of the labs that the students were in, one of them is in culinary. So we were going to have our culinary department make cookies for an upcoming drill weekend in December. And then some of our criminal justice students who might be interested in enlisting at the 180th, we're going to go there to learn more of the opportunities that they may have at that base. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. Another thing is utilizing our ECE, our early childhood education program, and doing like a parent night out is something that we're hoping to do, but due to COVID, obviously we can't use that right now. So we have some good ideas, I think, that we're trying to develop, but COVID is kind of hurting those right now. So,
right, it's certainly a challenging time. And when you say the 180th, you want to explain what that is to some of the other folks from different parts of the state of Ohio and from abroad?
Sorry, that's the Ohio Air National Guard base, the Toledo Express at the Toledo Airport.
Awesome.
Yep. I kind of haven't, that's where my husband works, and that's where this family member is. So I'm kind of trying to have my husband help me get him there, and then try to reach out to other branches as we move forward.
So you're also, having kids of your own, you're seeing what military service sacrifice, has, what its impact is with, a family member having to leave for a period of time, whether it's a drill weekend or whether it's a deployment.
Yep. Yeah.
So Tom, I really like that idea of, having those support groups, because a lot of kids, that's what they need, is to realize that they are not the only ones going through these experiences, and that there's other, classmates that are there. And then with Callie, with you guys having the Career Center, sending flowers, what a great gesture. And cookies. I mean, who doesn't love cookies? Next thing that I wanted to, and Laura, did you want to add anything to that at all?
I don't have anything to add to that right now because when we received our Purple Star Award, it was in January, and then we know we were gone from March on, basically. So this is kind of a new area for us.
And that's the beauty of the Purple Star Award, is it allows a lot of opportunities for growth and new opportunities. It's a wonderful award that's not only given to a school, but it's very impactful with the community. And speaking of which, how does being a Purple Star school affect your relationship with the community?
I can go ahead and start on that.
Sure.
I feel like we have a really good relationship, but even before we started in with the Purple Star, because we worked a lot with the American Legion and the VFW here in Hilliard when we did our military signing prior. So we work well with them. I have contacts there. Our Veterans Day event, we have a lot that come from like Rotary, VFW, American Legion, different places in Hilliard. Then we work a lot with our recruiters. They're here on a weekly basis, all the branches. So they have tabletops set out for lunch. They're going to be going into our study halls. We're allowed to have that happen. And then the next thing that we're working on, because I tried to figure out something to do because we can't have Veterans Day here in the building like we have in the past. So I had seen different programs in different communities where they have the banners displayed in their towns. So I worked with the city of Hilliard, and so we're going to be able to, the school district and the city connect together, and we're going to have banners made and then hung in downtown Hilliard of our active duty students, veteran students that cover all three of our high schools, and when it was just Hilliard High School. And we're also going to include the veterans and active duty who are Hilliard residents, because we want to do something that recognizes everybody. So that's a really big project for us. So it's a lot of community involvement.
That sounds like quite the large undertaking. And I can tell you, as a service member, to have a picture displayed, I'm envisioning this like displayed under like light poles. Is
Right.
that where in the main?
It's going to be like they did the athletes in March and April for all of Hilliard schools that were seniors, to recognize them. So it's going to be in downtown Hilliard on the light poles. Yeah.
Very cool. That way it's not just at the school, it's literally part of the community.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much what we're doing right now. We're working on.
And then before COVID, it sounded like you were saying that you invite veterans in to speak on Veterans Day and Memorial Day.
We do Veterans Day, and it's been a pretty big event the last 2 years. The last November was really a big program that we had, because we unveiled 2 huge signs that we have displayed in down on our first floor of our building, and it has all of the branches listed on our board, and then it has students who were Hilliard or graduated from Hilliard who are active duty or veterans, and their names are displayed with the emblem of the branch that they're in. And then we also have a Hilliard High School board that we have used for veterans or active duty that went to Hilliard High School. Most of those are veterans. So that's something that we've done that's big for the community. We had a really big turnout the last few years for our Veterans Day, including, having one of the elementaries or one of our 6th grade building class over, letter writing to veterans that were there and active duty. So I feel like we're pretty well connected with our community.
And usually with the BFW and the American Legion, they usually end up sponsoring high school students to go to Boys State or Girls State. So there's a lot of connections to the community. Sounds like you guys are really doing it right there in Hilliard. And I'm hoping that a lot of these folks that are listening on the call right now are getting these great ideas of what they could do to make it a community award. instead of it just being a school award.
Yes, and I think the biggest, I think the nicest and the most emotional program that we have is our military signing for our students who are graduating and have committed and or actually have enlisted into the service. Because if it wasn't for the VFW and the American Legion, I really don't think it would have been as formal and as appropriate as it should have been for what the military is. And that has just been a really well received program. The parents love it. We invite veterans or active duty from wherever. It doesn't even have to be from Hilliard. So it's a very nice event.
So a signing event, almost like some of the high school students that sign their letters of intent to go to a certain college to play a certain sport. You do one for those that are enlisting.
We do that for those students, the athletes, and then we also have an academic signing that the 3 high schools do. So, I had read what Terry McDermott does a couple years back and worked with him to get ours started, and then just have gone from there. So it has so much meaning to the parents, and we recognize that 2 veterans that day that sometimes they don't even know about it. They're just persuaded to get there. So it's really a very nice program.
Outstanding.
Hey,
Outstanding.
Corey, can I jump in for a second?
Yes.
So I'm with higher ed, so I'm definitely a bit removed from some of this, but I would say a couple things that I've noticed in the local community close by me with one of the schools that's Purple Star. I'm fairly active outside of work in some historical society stuff, and it's been interesting to actually go to a couple of those meetings and have some of the folks there make it a little announcement or say something that they're proud that their local school just became a Purple Star school and talked about it. And the first time I heard that, I was kind of shocked because I was like, you're hearing about it in your real life, like outside of work instead of at work. So I was a little bit, pleasantly surprised that they were excited about that. And then I would also say, I have a family member who does a lot in real estate around Dayton. And I know at least on a couple of occasions now, she's had new Air Force personnel assigned to Wright Pat that have asked about what schools are Purple Star in the region as they're thinking about getting, apartments and houses and things like that. So I just wanted to say, even though I'm removed from the, the K-12 side of this, I'm still hearing some things about the impacts in the communities related to that.
That's awesome. We're trying to cast that net large and wide and have as many folks hear the good word as we possibly can. Did anybody else want to chime in on that before we kind of move on to our next question?
Yes, Corey, I just want to add one thing that we do prior to the signings. We want to be able to give our current high school students opportunities to meet with folks. And so, yes, we have folks from the Army and all of the branches at lunch during the school day and that kind of thing. But there's a lot happening. So for the last probably 5 or 6 years, we actually hold an evening event where we bring in reps from all of the branches and we run it almost like a college fair, but we have about a half an hour where each branch can stand up on stage, talk about what they offer, as well as the educational opportunities that are going to go along with it. Then after everybody speaks, then all the students and parents can go out into what would be almost like a college fair type of thing, and they can walk around, ask questions, take notes, and take things home so they can go over them as a family as well.
Outstanding. And I was just going to kind of chime in too and say that one of the things that we do at my high school is we offer all the students that have enlisted in the military and they're joining after graduation is we started off doing red, white, and blue cords. That way they were designated as, hey, we're joining the military after graduation. And then we also had our French Honor Society. We're using the red, white, and blue cords as well. So we've had to switch to purple cords. That way all of our military personnel, they're given a pair of purple cords to designate them as being military. Just like the Purple Star Award, it's purple because when you take all the military branches and combine those colors, you get purple. So Jared, I was going to ask you here as we kind of transition on the higher ed side of things. Could you briefly explain some of the guarantees service members and veterans have at Ohio's public colleges and universities?
Yep, no problem. So several things happened, and some of this is from a few years ago. So in 2014, there was some sweeping legislation known as House Bill 488 that occurred in Ohio. This is definitely not as well known because, like all good legislation, after a couple years, it slowly starts getting forgotten about. So I'll just kind of reiterate some of these guarantees that are sort of locked in place for service members. The biggest one, and what I deal with the majority of the time for my job, is the actual awarding of military credit, turning it into college credit there at our colleges and universities across the state. That is something that we have actually seen a little bit on the K-12 side, because we do have some service members who enlist before their senior year. They do basic training and then come back. So there has been some cases where some of those students who are seniors in high school have actually been awarded military credit, and they know what type of credit they're getting, going into college, or as they do like their dual enrollment, the College Credit Plus type programs. So that's been kind of interesting. We have a guarantee of priority registration for those service members at all of our public institutions. So, before COVID, that was really, really useful. And now after COVID, I think it's been even more useful, because as classes are limited with enrollment, it gives them a little bit of an edge up to actually get enrolled in the courses they need. So that's helped out quite a bit. All of our colleges and universities have to have a single point of contact to help the veterans and service members on our campuses. All of our career services and alumni organizations basically had to create, I don't really have a good word for it, but had to create some type of a mechanism to help veterans on their campuses. So they had to sort of learn the language of having them, help write resumes and things like that, and organizing like veteran and military alumni type efforts. Each institution's board of trustees had to pass a policy of support for what they were going to do on their campus for veterans. They also have to survey their veteran population on campuses as well to actually determine what the needs are of the campuses. They had to allow for any establishment of student organizations. That really wasn't too big of an issue. Most of them already had it anyway, but again, we formalized it. So those are some of the, the major things that are out there. And since that happened, again, this passed in mid 2014. Since then, every school has obviously complied with that, and really everything we meet on now is how do you take it a step further and how do you do more? So we're seeing so many things expand. I mean, I could talk for a whole hour about different updates going on around the state, so I don't want to take forever, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate that there are a lot of really positive things happening across the public institutions in the state, which I think is good, not only for the parents, but if you can get the students here who are in the K-12 system doing, the Purple Star schools as well, it all starts to sort of merge and meld together and make this really good opportunity for Ohio.
Outstanding. And just kind of piggybacking off of that, and this kind of goes out, Jared, if you want to talk a little bit more about it, and Bob and Tom, both of you guys maybe add to it. What programs are available for military-connected youth as they transition to college, higher education, or career education apprenticeships? And are these programs, like, how are they shared with the students and the parents?
So I'll jump in on that a little bit here, because another portion of my job function is to deal with apprenticeships in higher education. So there's basically an ungodly amount of opportunity with apprenticeships in the state of Ohio right now. I mean, it's a phenomenal time for that, and it's really not limited to military connected. It's every student essentially in the K-12 system can participate in that. So there's avenues while you're still in high school to do pre-apprenticeship work and move into apprenticeships right after you graduate. And, I'll be frank, on the higher ed side, there's many of those apprenticeship programs that are paying better than many entry-level college degrees. So Ohio has great opportunity with the world of apprenticeships right now. The military-connected youth programs, I would say we don't necessarily have a formal path for a military-connected youth directly into college, if you will. But at the same time, a lot of those military-connected youth, in many cases now, are actually using transferred GI Bill benefits from their parents. And when they start using those transfer GI Bill benefits, then that opens up a whole other can of opportunities and entitlements, things that they can get at the colleges and universities. You know, many of them utilize the veteran centers on campus. There's a whole bunch of things that come along with that. So those are a couple things, you know, I can highlight right off the bat.
Yeah, and Jared, I was going to bring that very thing up. We, you know, I'm the director of the Military and Veterans Resource Center here at University of North Florida. We're same as you, legislation, you know, that you got to have a point of contact. Well, this university's expanded it to, we have a staff of 4. We got a big space with a resource center with computers, which nobody comes in anymore since March, but someday I hope they come back because it was great. It was like a ready room in here. You know, we had a lot of, but we count out of 17,000 population of students, about 1,400 are what we call military affiliated. And only about half of those are actual veterans. The rest are spouses and dependents using VA educational benefits. And, you know, we treat them just like you said, Jared, we treat them the same as the veterans. When they come in here, they have access to everything that the veterans do. So I think that's important because we've seen in the 5 years I've been here, the trend has gone from about, you know, 55% veterans and maybe 45% dependents and spouses to that has flipped to where now there are actually more dependents and spouses using GI Bill here at least than there are the veterans. So I'm not sure what that indicates, but it's a great benefit, and you know, it's good for everybody all around.
And I think the numbers are pretty similar in Ohio too, with the spouses and dependents.
And I don't know if it's just the word finally gotten out, you know, among active duty folks that you can assign your educational benefits to a spouse or dependent, or, you know, it took a while maybe. Not sure. We also, same thing in the state of Florida by legislation, college credit for military service. We don't have any veterans, even if they didn't take a single course while they're on active duty, they're going to come in with somewhere between 15 and 30 hours just for what they did in the military.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's and it's true. I mean, you know, 4 years in the military, you should have earned something for that. You know, they've been through all kinds of training. So
right, you've got the basic training, so there's a physical component, and then you have, you know, any kind of specialized training. So it's excellent opportunity that, you know, I'm glad colleges and universities are making that noise loud enough that veterans are like, oh, wow, I can actually earn credits before I even take my first class.
Yep.
Right.
And I would say, you know, talking about that a little bit more, you know, what we do for the military credit, we have certain statewide guarantees we call military transfer assurance guides. And that's something that I think schools are looking at more, and I'm hoping students are getting more aware of it, because I think in the past there was always some concern, you know, if I join the military for 4 years or whatever, am I going to be behind when I come back, or that type of conversation. You know, in some of these areas, especially for the Guard and reservists who are staying in Ohio, you know, they can go off and do a certain job, and some of those we've already you know, evaluated that credit, and it's a statewide guarantee, so they might get a semester or more in some cases of credit awarded in specific programs. And we're not talking like, you know, general elective stuff. Some of these are like specific engineering technology type credits of high demand jobs in Ohio. So it's like an excellent opportunity to go, you know, leave for a couple months, do this training, and even come back to Ohio, and you can go into a community college or a college and get that credit, and you really haven't lost any time at all. It's pretty impressive how things have changed in the last, you know, 5-6 years.
And a big part of that, again, like both of you were pointing out, is that transition of Montgomery GI Bill being applicable to spouses and siblings. That was a huge transition. And when a lot of families started hearing about it, it was like, whoa, I'm not the one who has to go to college now. If my spouse wants to, or my kids, we can hold on to that benefit until the time is ready. Tom, I was going to ask you, do you see or hear a lot of students, you know, transitioning from high school into college that are, you know, talking about, I don't know if the military is right for me because I want a college education and I want to earn credits? Are they bringing up this idea of earning credits for military training?
No, but we do. And so I think they're a little surprised to know that that is an option. Because I advise our students, and every year we highlight them at the high school graduations and that kind of thing. But I also talk to them one-on-one prior. That I heard a stat at one point that something like 28% of the young kids that actually join actually take advantage of the educational opportunities. That number is pretty low.
Yeah.
I remember that was it, and it stunned me in how low it was. And so by informing them, one, of you're going to earn college credits while you're there, and then that's going to keep you on track for multiple reasons, but then at the same time, being able to use the financial benefit and understanding that they need to ask questions about what are those, because they might be, if it's state paid with the guard, is it might be better than at the national level with active duty or even reserves. So it's important to ask those questions, that what is out there and how can I take advantage of it?
And it definitely sounds like the guidance teams need to be involved with this Purple Star Award, not only for the kids that are children of military connected families, but also those that are looking at joining the military and using that as a career path, or for using that as a step into college later on after, military service. So it sounds like, with the Purple Star Award, we need to solidify those counselors, principals, as well as front office workers for those applications that many of you were mentioning for your career centers and for your schools. And I was going to kind of move on to our next question here and point out, what type of resources are available to veterans and their family members as they pursue higher education and or career education and apprenticeships, and how are these resources shared? We kind of touched on it, but how do you share these resources? How do you get the good word out?
On the higher ed side, that one's a tough. I feel like that's the $1 million question. It's because you're always trying to hit new audiences and new people. So some of the things that, at the state level, there's things like, if they're in the National Guard, there's a National Guard scholarship program. We've got the Ohio, the War Orphans Scholarship, which isn't just for orphans, but it's also for children of disabled veterans as well. So there's some of those avenues, but really, once you sort of branch down from the state level into the individual schools, I would really say the majority of our institutions have at least one type of military-related scholarship opportunity there at the schools. Let alone not even diving into all the GI Bill stuff. And there are some great opportunities for using GI Bill for apprenticeship programs too. Whether that's yours or it's transferred as well. So there's various, things like that, and it's really hard to go into with all the schools, because every one of them's a little bit different with what they offer as far as resources. But then, the majority of them also have a veteran center on campus. Obviously, it's not getting used as much now because of COVID, but in many of those places, you're able to go in and print off coursework. You're using computers, get a cup of coffee, sit down, relax, whatever. So there's a lot of things out there for the state, and we're always trying to look at new ways, to talk about them, as well as obviously the military credit and trying to save money. Any new group we can talk to, we want to talk to.
Yeah, same with us. In fact, you just outlined what we used to do: free printing and coffee, and lots of times food and pizza out there. That brought in more people than anything else we did. But there was a lot of good networking. We'd get 15, 20 vets or just students out there in the lounge, and they would be talking to each other, doing projects, and there was a lot of good information sharing. We've got 26 scholarships for veterans and dependents and spouses, and even that, we have one that we just started for active duty spouses because they didn't have anything for them. We're trying to get them in here, but we actually spend money to advertise locally and in some national publications when we can. The other thing is we work hard to get those, even though that you can question them, but those military friendly designations, you want to be on those lists, or U.S. News and World Report lists and all that. Just try to prove that you really are military friendly.
While we have our higher ed folks with us, are there any important details military connected families should know before they seek higher education? Like what would be something that you would feel they should know before they make any decision on what's next?
Well-
Go ahead.
I think it's important, we just sent out last month to all of our seniors a list of scholarships for children of vets. And so I was able to have multiple conversations with about 5 parents who didn't know that those things were even out there. And those were separate from all of the other options that are there. And so they were just excited that this information, which Corey, I think we got it from you. And so I think you mentioned borrow, steal, or whatever. That's exactly what we're doing. But it's impacting more and more families. So there's 5 families being able to take advantage of something they didn't even know was out there. And so that's why I think this whole organization, being a part of this, meeting all of you, is just going to be able to help all of us share ideas and share various resources that can help everyone. And so it's been very.
Yeah, I mean, a couple is, know who to talk to and ask about like the military credit questions. We have links on our Ohio Higher Ed page that has the military credit contact at every institution out there. So who to talk to about getting that type of credit. And then also, regardless of whether it's military or other life experiences, there's also avenues to get prior learning assessment credit for things, certain jobs that do training and whatnot that also count for college credit. That's something out there. I would also say know how your credits can transfer amongst the schools, regardless of military credit. Know how your credits at a community college could transfer into a 4-year. I mean, with the way that we've built transfer in Ohio, there's I got to say this the right way. There's no reason to not utilize a community college and then transfer to a 4-year institution. We have all these guarantees in place that all the general education courses transfer, entry-level major courses transfer. We're building a whole slew of 2+2 pathways for every academic program out there in the state. So there's very savvy ways to save money in Ohio. And unfortunately, a lot of the times when you see Ohio ranked nationally for, college tuition costs and things like that, many of those entities never factor in any of the transferability of any of those programs from community colleges. So I feel like we always kind of look a little worse than we are because there's a lot of avenues to do that. Also, I would say pay attention to accreditations of schools you're going to. You need to know whether that school has, first of all, are they even accredited? Is a good question to ask. That's important, obviously.
Yeah.
But then, is that school, nationally accredited or is it regionally accredited? Generally, regionally accredited is kind of the gold standard in the world of higher ed for transferring and utilizing programs. So you just sort of need to do a little bit of research into what you want to do, and how you want to do it. And certainly, I think in Ohio, there's a lot of good opportunities to do exactly what you need to do and be financially savvy about it and save quite a bit of money. Let alone, if you've still got the kids in the K-12 system in the Purple Star schools, doing the College Credit Plus programs too, and then knowing how those credits transfer. I mean, there's a lot of avenues to save money and be aware of. We just got to keep spreading the knowledge out there.
Yeah, let me just add, and I agree with that most of the actual veterans that we see come in as juniors or seniors because they do already have an associate's degree because they did what you said, Jared. They went to community college or they got it while they were on active duty. But your question about details for military connected families, what they should know, when the benefit is assigned to what we call, a traditional freshman or somebody's just coming out of high school, they don't think of themselves as veterans, and they don't even, we see it all the time. They come in, they don't even know what program, what chapter 33, chapter 35, they don't know. And we've even had them call it a scholarship. So I would advise parents, the military parents or the veteran parents, to make sure that your student using the VA educational benefits understands their program that they're under, because they don't relate to it the same way. We started doing what we call onboarding before fall and spring terms here, and we would have, of course, the parents are very interested. The students, usually it's hard to get their attention, but the ones right out of high school, but that helps a lot. And last year, and this got interrupted by COVID, but we started what we call the freshman cohort, and we were trying to follow these people and really encourage them to come to the center. We have an ID. When you come in, you just zip your ID in just so we can see who's coming. We were trying to get them to come more because we thought we could make their experience better. And it was starting to work until we got to the spring, and then everybody went online. But I think that's good advice is, mom and dad probably have a real good idea what's going on, but the student may not actually understand their VA educational benefit.
Yeah, it's something else I would say that is a little bit counterintuitive is when using the GI Bill, it's worth it to have conversations with people, and especially if you're transferring it to kids and whatnot, but to always use your GI Bill for whatever the most expensive education is that you plan to get. And
Right.
this is really, again, very counterintuitive, and it's very hard to get into people. But if you're a veteran, you have your 36 months of your GI Bill, and it will pay for all of the public education in Ohio. So if you're talking to that person and their plan is to really get a PhD and be a college professor or something like that, you might want to tell them, hey, don't use your GI Bill right now. Complete your associate's degree and finish that first, taking out small loans or working or whatever you need to do, because that's going to be relatively inexpensive. And then when you start your baccalaureate or your master's program, turn on your GI Bill and start using it to cover all those costs that are the really expensive costs versus using your GI Bill right off the bat. I think so many service members and kids are gung-ho saying, I've got this GI Bill, I'm going to go use it, but they really don't sort of map out their whole college plan and, looking at that whole financial opportunity or, that financial burden that's out there and how to best, plan for that. And it's often better towards the end of your college life than it is at the beginning, depending on where you're going. I mean, it's different, but that's a conversation that needs to be had with students as well.
Sounds like there's a lot of opportunity not only for our military connected families to tap into resources while they're K-12, but also going beyond that K-12 education well into their college years, even with the applicability of Montgomery GI Bill for a PhD. I mean, you're looking at a lot of continuity where military service is not only earning college credits, but it's either paving the way for yourself, your spouse, or one of your kids. Now, one of the things that I was hoping to do is I wanted to leave a little bit of time left here for any types of questions that we might have from the audience. And I asked you to type those into our message board. So I'm going to give those to Pete, but just giving everybody a heads up, there were a couple other questions I was hoping to get to with our panelists from the K-12 perspective. And then we'll share any kind of final thoughts that we may have before we wrap everything up. But Pete, if you don't mind, do you want to go ahead and have us field some of these questions from our groups?
Yes, thanks, Corey. We got 3 questions in the chat box. First one from Lieutenant Colonel Hull. Is it a mandatory requirement for schools to identify MIL-connected students in their EMIS registration system?
I was told for Ohio that it was, and we have that field, that military identifier field on one of our registration screens. So that information is how I pulled our list of students, and it was pretty specific. It asked for active duty, National Guard or reserves. And so I pulled a list of who our students are by grade and their ID number, and we came up in our building with 33 students. I was hoping that it also had veteran information on it as well, but I was told because that is something from ODE that it could not be asked. So there's one field for us that has an identifier on it.
Very
Second,
go
ahead, Corey.
what I was going to add to it is my kids happen to go to Hilliard-Davidson High School. So Lori, there was no military designation for me as being a veteran in your paperwork.
No, but that's another huge reason for our survey that we're going to send out, that we want to do in November to all the parents, because if it's as big as, what we did last year to identify all of our students whose family members are in the military and veterans and so on and so forth, that's the information that we want. I mean, this was nice, this was helpful, but we want more information than that, because that information then will help Tom for, scholarship information, it just goes on and on.
Yeah, the EMIS designation is definitely a great starting point. But when you look at the great state of Ohio, we have the 6th largest veteran population in the United States. So if we're not identifying those National Guard units and reserves and former active duty members who are now veterans or in veteran status, we might be missing a huge section of the population.
Right.
Next is general comment from Melissa O'Donnell. It also depends on branch and scholarship offerings. I used my National Guard scholarship for undergrad and GI Bill for grad school.
Excellent. Excellent.
Next question, what types of activities are you doing to engage the military connected youth in your building? Why don't we start with Callie, because that's so interesting when you have so many feeder schools, if you will, into that career center. Callie?
Yeah, so when we were talking about the community, I was trying to get some ideas. So thank you to those who are sharing. It is a little difficult coming. So Penna is within 5 different counties, 16 different schools. So when we're talking about people transferring mid-year, we really don't have that, because it's only if students are transferring from another career center due to the curriculum that they'd be missing. So we don't really have like the transfer credits or students coming to us mid-year, but we are, like I said, we're trying to utilize the trades that we have and the skills that students are learning. Another thing that the culinary is doing for Veterans Day is there's a shut-in veterans, and there are this group does like 200 meals, and they provide hot meals to the veterans who can't go out on Veterans Day to get their free meal. And the culinary department is taking care of the desserts. So that's one thing that we're doing, and we're just making it more lab specific. We're trying to do a signing day too. A lot of our firefighter and criminal justice, it just falls because they do the PT, and then they have recruiters in their classroom a lot. A lot of them show interest within the military field. So we plan on doing a signing day through them and anyone else interested in Penna. But again, we're just trying to do lab specific to gain their skills. And I guess it's a win-win for both, because we get to provide our services, but also help those families too. I guess one question that I have.
Then we have one more question in the chat box. Go ahead,
oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So we're looking at doing a wall of honor, and I know Lori, you had spoke about that too. How do you gain that data? Do you do like a Survey Monkey, or how did you reach out to past students?
Well, we started out by knowing who our students were prior, because when we do graduation, we have a list of students who have enlisted. So we started there, and then we just, I did something on Facebook. It was a lot of word of mouth. And then we also, on our Davidson website, have it's a application. I don't even want to say an application. It's a form. And so anybody can get on there, and they can fill in the information to let us know, how far, what's your name, what branch, veteran, active duty, year you graduated, contact information, email, and phone number. So we have compiled a really decent list from that. And, when we had our January signing, there was our January, when we got our Purple Star Award in January, we had the paper, our Hilliard This Week here. So there was information in there as well.
Okay.
About how to contact us to get to get your name up on the board. So, you know, wherever we can put that information we would send it out. We would send it out we did an e-blast also to our parents. And so it was really a lot of word of mouth and, you know, different sites that we went to put the information on. But you can contact me later if you'd like to, and I can.
Yeah, I would.
more.
'Cause
Okay.
Yeah, we're new at this, like we said before. So we're just trying to, I guess, find a way to do the Wall of Honor as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of word of mouth, social media, and it sounds, Lori, like reaching out to the community and having it in the newspaper and on your high school website where there's that link directly to the Google form. It makes it extremely accessible.
Yeah.
A lot of your older veterans may not be as tech savvy. And so having like an email account or even a phone number where somebody might be able to even call in can be very beneficial as well.
And
Yeah.
I did talk with a lot of elderly vets, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, some of them would talk 30 minutes just about their experience, and
Yeah.
they were so appreciative.
So you did all means of a
Kelly.
way to contact them.
Yes.
Okay.
Corey,
And to
we
go
have-
along with that question too, another thing that with the activities, it's hard because a lot of people rely on transportation to be able to do like the busing transportation before and after school. So for us to have events to engage the students in our building, that's another thing that we're struggling with too. We used to have like a study hall, it was called a Success, where we could pull students in, but due to COVID and tracing those students, we want them just in their classroom and not going anywhere around the building. So that's another thing, an issue we're running into is connecting more with them in our building. I tried doing a Zoom, and I had a parent and a student show up, but just one of the 22 that I want to help. But I got some good insight. I was able to ask them questions, but I'm still struggling with that to answer that question.
So one of the, go ahead, Pete.
I was just going to put that last question to you, Corey, and the panel. From the good commissioner from the great state of Tennessee, Deanna McLaughlin, did you identify the states that currently have Purple Star Schools initiatives and programs?
I did not, but Pete, would you go ahead and proclaim our Purple Star states that we have so far and those that are in the potential works?
So now you're going to try to make me remember offhand, and Lori just put me in the elderly category of veteran. Thanks a lot. But it sounds like hearing from Commissioner Buin, he might be the 13th state in the great state of Florida. But offhand, as I remember, 3-4 years ago, the first state was Virginia after Ohio, then into South Carolina. I can remember 3.
North
Let me
Carolina.
just go. North Carolina, right. Indiana, Tennessee, obviously the commissioner from Tennessee. Oh, I'm getting help from the chat box. Amen. I got my, I feel like whose line is it anyway, or whatever that. Okay, Georgia, Arkansas, Montana passed it by their state council in month of the military child, and Alabama is on its way come January with their initiatives that they're organizing on the foundational, district, and base level of the Maxwell Air Force Base. Is that 13?
We also, North Dakota,
Texas.
Texas.
Thank you, Chip.
And we have received some positive feedback from some other states like our Ohio border partners, West Virginia, as well as we're fingers crossed we might have another fellow O state like Oklahoma join the ranks of Purple Star schools. So we're growing, 12, potentially 13. And what was that? I heard maybe 50. So we are hoping to promote the Purple Star program as a vehicle to not only help with these scholarship opportunities, but to also help with our social, emotional learning and stressors that our military families face as they PCS from duty station to duty station. Not only is it stressful on the parents, but it's stressful on the kids. We're fighting for those rights where they're having those eligibility issues squashed. We're also seeing those enrollment issues eliminated, or we're at least having those conversations where guidance counselors and incoming or received students are able to kind of have that equal footing as they begin. I know. Go ahead.
I would remiss if I didn't mention, as Patty Ewan over there at the U.S. Department of Defense Education Activity noted, Military Child Education Coalition, again, the MCEC, or Military Child Education Coalition, is the first national entity really to take on Purple Star. They had a great town hall setting. I was part of that effort. So were the great commissioners over in Texas and Virginia, and a couple other folks were on there, but again, led by MCEC earlier this month, and that was the first time we had a national town hall on Purple Star. So we are very grateful to MCEC, and as noted also in the chat box, Kentucky is looking at piloting Purple Star. So maybe the Ohio River Valley will be the first region to take on Purple Star all by themselves.
And I'm taking a look at our time here. I'm noting that it's 4:34. I don't necessarily want to end the conversation here, but I want you guys to know that, you know, a lot of us here from, you know, the state of Ohio and from Florida and from Kentucky and from Tennessee, this is a national movement. You know, when people put on that uniform, they're serving this great country. And so we have these service members, not just in Ohio, not just in Florida, not just in Kentucky or Tennessee. We have folks that are moving from state to state to state, from Air Force Base to Air Force Base, from Navy base, sometimes even transitioning to a Guard base in another state. And so we see a lot of potential to help out our students. As a teacher, we're here to help out our students. And if those students happen to be military connected, we're going to do everything we possibly can to make sure that they are not only aware of their different rights and entitlements, but also that they utilize them and that they are well informed when they leave our four walls to go do whatever ... is next. But I put my email address up here in my background. I don't know if it's reading backwards or if you can even see that, but I wanted to kind of thank you panelists and the folks here on the meeting for your time. Remember, you have the power to make the difference in someone's life. You are serving those that volunteered to serve. Also, the Purple Star Award is an award for the school, but you can hear testimony that it brings the community together. It's bringing a lot of folks together. And if you have any further questions and you'd like to reach out to us later, we'd love to be of assistance for you. Pete, I'll let you go ahead. Sounds like there's something coming up.
Yes, and right after I finish, you can close this out, but would you close this out with your email address? Because that's what's kind of getting inquired in the chat box. So if you could say your email address, because it's a little illegible because of the glare in the camera. But noting Nevada also wants to start Purple Star Schools Initiative. I know Martha, a veteran of the United States Armed Forces, and other folks in Great Silver State are doing things there. So I wouldn't be surprised again before the end of the school year in Nevada. And then lastly, I would say, as noted by Kevin with the U.S. Department of Defense, they made this, as in Purple Star, a key quality of life issue with the Defense Liaisons State Office. And so that's probably the most meaningful traction that we got nationally. It became an official issue of the U.S. Department of Defense, a key quality of life, top 10. So grateful, obviously, to the U.S. Department of Defense because we followed their lead. Go ahead, Bob.
Just quick comment on that is that in the state of Florida, one of the reasons there's so much groundswell for Purple Star right now is because the Air Force assessment of all the bases. Well, you know, Ohio was involved too, but the bases in Florida, in the Panhandle and Tampa, there was some old data that was used. Anyway, they didn't get the greatest ratings, and so that created a stampede to, among other things, get Purple Star because, you know, it'll get fixed because it was really old data that was being used, and Florida is doing a good job. But they realized, you know, this is like the good housekeeping seal for your schools, you know, for as far as military goes. So that you hit it right there. That's it's going to become a metric for the military to measure.
Corey, your email box, thank you to you, is in the box. So those listening, Corey's email is in the chat box. And then that final note over there is the Scott Air Force Base in Illinois is looking to start the Purple Star Award there in Northern Illinois. Corey, back to you.
One of the other things that we have been able to do as a Purple Star state is we've had some pretty intelligent folks work out some deals with some of our local colleges. And if you're on the fence about, hey, should I do this Purple Star Award or not? You're going to hear me say 1,000 times, yes, yes, yes. But to try and sweeten the pot and try and give you more incentive to be of service to our military families who have already made so many sacrifices, we have created a type of course where those Purple Star points of contact can earn 1 semester hour of graduate credit through Ashland University by doing these different Purple Star projects. You would get 1 hour towards the 12 that you need, 1 hour of it from this phone call alone. And then I think Pete has a list of everyone who was on this phone call or in this town hall, so we can verify that. But I want to let you know that, hey, there is an opportunity for you with higher ed chances because you're working with these military connected youth. Other than that, guys, I can't be thankful enough for you and for your time. I know we spilled over by 9 minutes. I usually try and run a tight ship. Most people say that I talk too much, but thank you, thank you, thank you. Be safe. Have a great evening. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them my way. Also, I'm usually a Google Meets kind of guy, so this is a new platform for me using the Microsoft Teams. So hopefully you learned something. You can trade something. You have a new contact, or this was definitely a positive opportunity for you. So thank you, everyone. And I'll stay on, and everyone else feel free to sign off. But take care, guys. Have a great evening, and we will see you hopefully in some publicity getting that Purple Star Award or starting the Purple Star Award in your state. Take care, guys.
Corey, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. Any of you panelists want to stay around and have a quick